Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayado, and the topic of today's discussion is determining which methodology you will use for your academic paper or academic research. And so when we talk about methodology, essentially what we're referring to is, are we going to use a quantitative approach, a qualitative approach, or a mixed method approach, which blends the two types. So if you're unfamiliar with what these different methodologies refer to, quantitative methodology refers to data, so information that you gather as a researcher that is strictly based on numbers. And so with those numbers, we get data points that we can use to help support or disprove certain hypotheses. Whereas qualitative data deals with essentially how people feel about certain things that can't necessarily be quantified in numbers. So essentially you're referring to, when you talk about qualitative data, is experiential data. How did this person experience this phenomenon? And that would be an overview, a very simplistic overview of the two different types. And you might imagine a mixed method approach would be saying, okay, if we take some of this hard data and then we take some of these experiences and we put them together, can we get a better picture than just one or the other? And so you as a researcher need to determine which of these you're going to approach your topic from. And so how do you know which one you will use? Well, first thing, that is definitely the prerogative of the researcher. I know some people feel more comfortable with numbers, and so they want to just crunch numbers and then try to find patterns with the numbers and then make inferences from that. And that's perfectly fine. One of the benefits is that because we don't get any experiential data from the numbers, essentially nothing that can be skewed through a certain lens, we can just say, okay, we know X, Y, and Z because the numbers show us, right? So you don't have to go to someone and say, how did you feel about this phenomenon? And them, tell you one experience, and then the next person over might have been in the same room at the same time doing the same thing and have a different experience. These numbers essentially just say, this is what it is, right? And that is an oversimplification, but that is just a general idea of the quantitative approach. Whereas the qualitative approach, you do actually ask someone, okay, well, we know we have some numbers over there, but I really want to know, how did you feel? What was the experience that you had doing this thing? And you get more of a psychological approach with that style of research, because you start to understand how people view the world. And so with these two different ways of viewing research, it's very, very different in terms of how you approach the data, right? And then obviously the mixed methods approach is blending of those two. So it really boils down to the researchers themselves, because you can go and approach the same topic from both angles, right? So for instance, there are in my cohort for my dissertation, there are some researchers that are looking into certain parts of education only using the qualitative methodology, while others approaching education are using the qualitative. Those that are using the quantitative, some of the benefits that they have is that in terms of getting the information, sometimes it's a lot easier. Sometimes the data is public. So with qualitative research, you do have to generally get permission well, you do have to get permission to do the research with the people that you're doing your research with, right? And then if you're getting information from teachers in a school district per se, you have to get permission from the school district. Whereas if it's public data, that quantitative methodology, that quantitative researcher, they don't have to worry about that. That data is already there. There's no one that they have to ask permission for if it's already public. So if you are doing your research and you're concerned about having to get permission from a school district or whatnot, maybe that's the route you want to go, quantitative. Now, there's also it's very different in terms of how the data is viewed. Okay, so there are a lot more mathematical, analytical tools that are going to be used with those numbers. And so, once again, if you're not comfortable doing the mathematics part, then you're probably going to want to lean more towards the qualitative approach. And to be fair, it's not that the mathematical information is just too difficult to comprehend if you're not a math major, because I don't think that is. I don't think that's the case. But I can see where some people, you know, it may be just a little bit more than they're willing or have time to learn during the course of a dissertation, because the dissertation itself, you're doing a lot of research, you're doing a lot of sorting and sifting through data, and then you're doing literature reviews, you're doing maybe learning, you know, if you didn't learn statistics in college, that's just a little bit too much for you. Maybe going to the qualitative approach will work best for you. That doesn't mean that the qualitative approach is simpler, okay? Because I think that's a misconception too. Neither is more difficult than the other, okay? With the qualitative approach, as I've mentioned, you're getting a lot more permissions, and like I said, this could take some time. I know some districts, from what I've heard, it might be 6 months, maybe even a year to get permission to do some of this research in a district. But you're getting information from a human in human terms, in experiential terms, and you can ask questions to a human. You can't ask questions to a group of numbers, right? I can't take my data sheet and say, okay, now let's go through these numbers that you gave me, and I want you to tell me a little bit about it. I mean, it's just, the numbers are what they are, and so you have to infer from the data points what, you know, does my original hypothesis or hypotheses, does this prove or disprove that? Whereas, you know, with the humans, you can say, let's talk about the experiences that you have, and you know, you can always do follow-up questions as well. There's numerous different ways that you can do qualitative research. You can do questionnaires, you can do interviews, you know, you can do group sessions where you're asking many people of their feelings on a topic at one time. And then you have to take that data, and then you have to try to find commonalities. You have to try to figure out, okay, so one thing I've seen that everyone has mentioned is this thing. And then you try to codify it by saying, okay, I'm going to give a terminology to this phenomenon, this experience. And then you try to take that and you try to say, okay, this is experiential data, but can we turn it into something that looks like consistency? Obviously, it's not going to look like consistency numerically, but does it look like internal consistency in terms of you know, the human experience? So those are the main differences, and obviously the mixed method approach is going to take some of these and try to blend it. I'm not doing a mixed method approach. I'm doing a qualitative approach. We did do an earlier class on quantitative methodology at American College of Education, so I've done a little bit of both, but just the way my brain works and what I'm most comfortable with, the qualitative approach made the most sense. I don't even believe you can do mixed methodology at American College of Education. So that's not something I have a ton of experience with in terms of blending the two, but that is what you would expect if you were to take a mixed methods approach. So this was just an overview of the different research methodologies. So that way, in case maybe you're heading into concept paper and you're trying to figure out which direction you want to go. Well, actually, I guess it would be before concept paper because you would have taken those two courses. So maybe you're heading into qualitative methodology and you're heading into quantitative methodology. You can know what to expect, and maybe you can get the gears turning on what you want to do for your dissertation, because you pretty much have to have that ready from the get-go in concept paper. So all right, well, thank you for listening. If you have any questions, go ahead and put it down below, and I appreciate you guys listening to me today.